Good morning, everyone. This is Six of the Universe, and today's movie and topic is Doc Rivers' adjustments and how fair we can honestly be. So, I've been on Twitter, I've been on YouTube, I've just been watching and listening. I haven't made any reaction videos other than the one immediately after the game, which I stand by. Ben Simmons being a bigger bust than Jaleel Okafor. Let me make this clear about why this is the case. I knew that Jaleel Okafor would be a bust the moment that we picked him. Actually, even before the moment we picked him, I looked over his Duke tape and I was like, oh my God, what are people seeing here? You're seeing a below the rim big man who doesn't have good court vision, who doesn't have rebounding ability. How can you take this guy as a lottery for any organization was beyond me. I have no idea why he was a lottery grade. 17 points on 14 shots, awful point per possession. It just never made sense. That pick will never make sense. I think it's one of the worst picks ever made all time. I feel like scouts in general, both for the Sixers front office at the time and the NBA community in general, what were you thinking when you looked at a player who, if he wore a Temple jersey, would not have had first round consideration whatsoever? Is beyond me. So that's why with Julio, I knew he was a bust before he even wore a jersey. What happened with the worst record in NBA, or the second worst record in NBA history? How about that? A shock. I knew that collapse was going to happen. You drafted a below college athlete, and then you featured that. What do you think was going to happen? You probably were going to be competitive on an NBA landscape. Come on. In many ways, it was a great pro tank move. But if you were looking to actually get something for your roster, it was malpractice. So how had Ben a worse bust than that? Because you actually had expectations for Ben Simmons. You thought, see, here's what I thought in 2016. No one graded this guy as a guard. No one thought this guy was a guard. Stupid. And you're hearing some of that conversation now with Raekwon Gray, a prospect in the 2021 draft, who I just looked at him and I'm like, nice, very impressive. Because Chad Ford at ESPN talked about how, if we put him at guard like we are on the combine, stop it. Stop it. He's a pretty good ball handler, full forward. His shot isn't really there yet, but his ball handling is better than Ben's. He has the ability to pick up his dribble. He has the ability. He's like a poor man's Zion Williamson to me. Not as athletic, not as explosive, and that's going to raise the big question. Can you really be a poor man's Zion Williamson and play in the NBA? That remains to be seen. But he is a poor man's Zion Williamson. As athletic, he has a sneaky first step. So that's where the athleticism comes from. He has a decent first step, but he's not going to be as vert as Zion, I should say. He doesn't have the vert. He's more grounded than Zion. And that will cause a problem because just like Zion, you're undersized. So I don't look at him as point forward. I look at him strictly as a forward. I feel like if a team drafts Raekwon to be just like we did with Ben, it's a disaster. I feel like the NBA scouts need to let this big point guard prototype die. It doesn't work. You need to have a perimeter game. You need to have the ability to create for others off the dribble, which he does to a good degree. But again, I'm just saying, for his own sake, to succeed as a prospect, let the big guard thing die already. Let it die the merciful death that it needs to die. It doesn't work. Sorry to go on a small tangent on the prospect. But the reason that I brought that up is that, again, I looked at Ben Simmons originally before anything ever happened, and I thought he's an elite power forward. That's what I thought. You looked at Ben Simmons out of LSU, and one of the initial thoughts for me was, this guy is a more athletic Chris Webber type. Or this guy could be a Karl Malone. I thought that he could be Thaddeus Young with passing ability. All of those three guys, by the way, are power forwards. I thought that Ben Simmons could strictly be a power forward. And if you had kept Ben a power forward and just work on the post game, work on rebounding, and someone like, oh, do we still need a shot at forward? A mid-ranger would be nice, yes, to be able to have that mid-range stretch ability so you could be like a Marcus Aldridge and further utilize his first step. But even if he never had a jump shot at the power forward position, presuming he always played it, he could have had a Blake Griffin type of career. And Blake Griffin wasn't really a shooter until late. Okay? So the shot, yes, would not have been as much of a factor if he had just moved the power forward and stayed there early in his development before the money swelled up. Feel like two things happened for Ben. Number one, you played him out of position, ruined any chance you had whatsoever of development, and then two, you paid him. So now you're trying to get this guy who decided not to put the work in the gym for 5 years. Now you're deciding all of a sudden that he's going to be humble enough to say, you know, I'm not an all-star, so I'm not top 15 in the league, so I'm not what the media proclaim me wrongly every year. I do need to put a lot of work in the gym. I'm not 80% complete. I'm more 20%. And I can get to 80% this offseason if I work hard. I don't see it. I give him the space, but I don't see it. Like, that's going to take a lot of convincing on my part that a guy with low work ethic is going to all of a sudden possess a great deal of work ethic. Okay, and that was the Ben thing. I'll get a better extensive video because the topic, which I avoided for 7 minutes, I apologize, was Doc Rivers. Because I've been hearing on YouTube, Twitter, etc. about Doc Rivers. How much blame should he get? You know, is he escaping the roster problems? And let's start here. He's not escaping them. No one could. Because we were the number one seed in the Eastern Conference, the Sixer brass, to a degree, and Sixer fans kind of have now a warped perception. This roster was not number one seed good. Everything to the bottom was trash. Toronto, their season completely debacle. Milwaukee, for a very long time, was the bottom seed before they started winning, just like Atlanta. Miami had to collapse and lost in the first round. Sweep. The bottom half of the Eastern Conference was garbage. And I made many videos about this. So this isn't just me saying this because of the collapse. Our collapse in the second round. I knew that the bottom half of this conference was garbage. By the way, including to a degree Atlanta, which is why I am still triggered that you somehow lost that series. The series was, yes, winnable. If that's the extent of your criticism of Doc, that is warranted. It was winnable. But the roster is a mess. It is a mess. And I feel like even if Doc made the adjustments that I would have wanted him to make, I feel like it would have given you a better chance of holding on to some of these leads, which would have, yes, led you to a victory. At the same time, one of my greatest problems with Ben's absolutely horrible series, as an example, was because he was that bad, and because Tobias Harris ended up missing his bunnies, Jerome B had to be perfect. I want to give every NBA fan a little hint here. There is no such thing as perfection by one single player. Complete games are a baseball pitcher thing. 9 innings, maybe 4 hits, no earned runs, 10 Ks. That's possible in baseball. In the NBA, I have never seen or never heard of 24 for 24, 8 for 8 for 3. And if you did hear it, you probably heard it from either Steph Curry or Klay Thompson even then. Sometimes you would see from Klay Thompson or Steph 19 for 31. See what I mean? You got 19 field goals, but you had to take 31 shot attempts. Perfection is not possible, nor is it the craft of basketball. The craft of basketball is the diversity of moves that the offensive player can make, which puts you in a position to score the ball. So, if perfection is not possible by one player, and it's truly not, that is why the supporting cast exists, to complement said star, so that he doesn't have to go out giving you 40 to win games, and you scored 37 in a loss game 5. Oh, John B wasn't really there for us in the second half. I'm sorry, I was of the impression that the Sixers had 12 players on their roster. And it was a 10-man rotation. And even if it had been an 8-man, we'll get to that later, right? But whether it's 8-man or 10-man, I presume that these guys could play NBA basketball. That's what Doc was saying. That's what I'm going to say for him. I presumed that they could play NBA basketball. That is the presumption that they could play in this league. And they could certainly play in this league for a fucking quarter. That you couldn't even get a quarter out of your bench. Out of 2 to 4 players from your bench. Highlight the necessity of Gerard's perfection, but I am telling you the sheer impossibility. So let's take the open 12. Let's get this out of the way. Open 12, right? At least he took 12 shots. Again, skilled players are in a position to score. He went 0 for 12 that game. It happens. It sucks that it happened in the playoffs, but it happened. If instead of going 0 for 12 and he went 3 for 12, 4 for 12, we probably squeaked that out. It just so happened that it was 0 for 12. It is what it is. That's where that statement by Ben actually applies. It is what it is. You want this guy to carry your offense, but he went 0 for 12 in the game. It is what it is. This should not be a focus. It's great for a Sports Center meme. It's great for Max Kellerman, Stephen A. Smith conversation. It is the rarity of basketball. Just like the Toronto 0-point game, it is the rarity of the NBA. Something like that is going to happen once every month and a half, 3 months. It is going to be that way. For every star in the association, including Kevin Durant. We were laughing at Kevin Durant game 4. Kyrie Irving goes down. And Kevin Durant, quote unquote, will get exposed. So what happens in games 5, 6, or 7? Kevin Durant goes on a tear and shows himself to be unstoppable. After 0 for 12, John B. Yes continued to have some second half struggles, especially with turnovers, but he put you in position, including 33 points in game 7. Enough. Let's be realistic with what we're looking at. I wish that John B. didn't turn the ball over, but it's the least of my problems with this roster. Problems that I've had from the beginning of this roster. This roster is a mess. So where did the Sixers lose the series? Since they didn't lose it from John B. being perfect. And in the same breath, as much as I would have liked Doc Rivers to make what I'm going to suggest what he could have done, or illustrate for you what he could have, done. But even if he had done those things, the margin of your victory increases by maybe 2 to 4%. And I don't think in this case that it costs you. It costs you with Brett. It really costs you with Brett. It's kind of funny. Both talked about how Brett Brown, quote unquote, coached his ass off. Not really. I hated the dribble handoff offense. I still do. Somebody's like, oh, you ran the Embiid ready dribble handoff in game 7. That's the problem. You literally ran the same action on the left wing of the block. You want to talk about how Doc Rivers does the same thing over and over? There was more variety in a 2-man, 3-man game than the dribble handoff left side of the wing. That game 7 will trigger me. The ball did not move. You did not stretch Toronto's defense. They were a great defense that year. But my God, did he make it ever easy. When you had a non-ball handler, and this was the same issue for us this year too, but when you have a non-ball handler, and you're running exclusively dribble handoff on that one side of the court, how is that hard to defend? It's not. move the ball, but to move the ball, you have to have guys who can dribble. And J.J. Redick, no. Steph Curry, a little bit better, but come on. If you don't have the ability to dribble drive, and you're running a dribble drive action, like a dribble handoff, you're going to be excruciatingly limited when it comes to handling the ball and moving the ball and threatening the defense. Long story short, I was never impressed with Brett Brown's offensive schemes. And we were even less impressed with rotations. So even if you're going to get rid of rotations, we didn't have all 5 guys at once. Oh no, we would just have Berkan Korkmaz and Raul Neto together in the backcourt. You know? Or we would just have Shake Milton do not pay coach's decision, which at the time last year, it wasn't warranted. This year would have been warranted, but last year not so much. You know? So yeah, let us not use this series to forget where we came from. That was awful. That was entirely awful. It was shitty coaching. I don't want Woj Media to use this series now to revive that idea. He was an awful coach, hasn't been hired by anyone, hasn't been hired yet in a second coaching cycle thus far. I just want you to acknowledge the reality already. He was not a good coach. Is Doc Rivers a good coach? He is a good coach with a flaw. But this flaw is workable. Way more workable than Brett. Remember, all those years, 25th rank in turnovers. Me and Thiago from the Painted Lines, we had this discussion on, one of the unique quirks of Brett Brown's offense was explosion, all of the varied cuts. To me, it also cut off your head. You literally had no idea what you were doing running at the time, and it was a part of either for your turnovers. But you would have some off-ball variance, provided that you were moving the ball and on a dribble handoff action. I digress. But you definitely have more cutters in the Brett Brown offense than you did with Doc Rivers. There were 2 things. Number one, we didn't have an off-season last year. We do this year. The season goes start in October. So we will have an off-season for Doc Rivers to install more plays, more concepts. So there will be that. You will have a full off-season to accumulate the Doc Rivers offensive system. That's number one. But number 2, to me, is a happy medium. I wouldn't mind more cuts, sure. I would love to have that. But for me, a 2-man game, 3-man game, basically high pick and roll with an off-ball cutter to a degree. I love that 2-man, 3-man game action. I love the weak side shooter on the corner while you're running the spread pick and roll offense. I have no problems with Doc Rivers' continuity offense. My only gripe with the offensive set system, which again, with no training camp, it wasn't possible. This year will be the telltale sign, and I think that Doc Rivers will give us more of a counterpunch to a punch. But I do agree that you didn't have enough variance inside of the initial set. You didn't have that counterpunch if they would take away the initial read on the pick and roll. But again, that to me is a minor problem in the sense that you're going to have a year 2 with Doc, whether you like it or not. But Doc Rivers did not lose you the series. He could have done better, yes, but he did not lose you the series. There was an emphasis and a clear distinction that is absolutely necessary. And the reason it's necessary, and we can finally get to it, I will hop on this roster. Number 1 weakness, and it's been your number 1 weakness the whole year. I've been saying it, and we can say it definitively. Small forward. At the very beginning of the year, I was like, Danny Green, are you kidding me? Danny Green, are we going to be for real here? 9 points, 37% from 3. Here's the thing. What's more important, the 37% from 3 or the 9 points a game? The 9 points a game is more important, as in lackluster. What were you getting? So think about it. 9 points per game, 37% from 3. It meant that Danny Green could make 3 shots in a game. Come on. Come on. 3 shots! 3! Who cares? Who, in the grand scheme of things, really cares that Danny Green can hit 3 shots? He plays over 30 minutes a night, but he'll give you 3 shots. Now, Danny Green obviously only played games 1 and 2 before the injury. But that's why when I was on Discord at the time, and even privately on Twitter, I said to DJ and RB, I was like, thank God, now we can actually get a real offensive weapon in the starting lineup instead of wasting minutes seeing Danny Green either A, throw bigs, or B, throw nothing at all, because it's not like you're going to run a pin down for Danny Green to come off a screen for him to shoot like a Steph Curry. Danny Green doesn't have that kind of quick twitch release. That's the other problem. Even as a shooter, he's not a shooter that scores. So Danny Green, very basically, to sum that up, has very low offensive utility. And his defense does not quite frankly make up for it. You would have to be an Andre Robertson level player, and Danny Green's just not that great defensively. He's good, especially if you don't have him in a screen or action, which is why we should have thought a little bit more about Game 1. We know that Danny Green struggled on screen and roll, and Trae Young, not only you run that pick and roll action, but Trae Young has a phenomenal floater game. So in hindsight being a bitch, even though Danny Green fares better against a point guard, particularly if they don't run screens on him, we should have thought about how Trae Young played basketball, and we should have just steered straight clear of that matchup. Because that's a matchup that Danny Green, even if he were younger, I don't think that Danny Green was ever going to be able to handle that particular matchup. To quote Brett Brown, a live ball god who could shoot a b-ball. That's Danny Green's worst nightmare. Because he can't take away the drive and he can't take away the shot. So hindsight being a bitch, and you can criticize Doc for this one, of course, definitely. This is the one thing that you can say. Did Doc Rivers lose you Game 1? Yes. Did he lose you the series? No. Not essentially entirely. But obviously, with the benefit of hindsight being a bitch, and Doc Rivers will tell you, if hindsight were a bitch, and if I looked at that more closely, I would have seen that is not a favorable matchup for Danny Green. Danny Green's my veteran, he's my defender, I could trust him. I could put him on Bodan, I could put him on Herter. But the very last thing I could do is put him on Trae Young. It took a game. It took a second half adjustment where Ben and Matisse were more on him in the second half of Game 1. But the image was done at that point for Game 1. That's a worthy criticism. I have nothing to deny it. It was my criticism. That's fair. But it did not overall lose you the series. More to the point that Danny Green existed on your roster to begin with. So let's get back to the travesty of the small forward. When Danny Green went down, I was like, yes, we could put someone better on the roster. To who was going to replace him. So who is actually on the bench? And here's what I forgot. The players who are on the bench. If Danny Green was a pitiful starter, what did that make for the bench? Burkan Korkmaz, whenever he got in the starting lineup, and I was on a Sixers Discord, and I'm like, I'm a fan of Burkan for much the same reason the Doc did. I will be honest with you, only for one game though. After the one game, and I know the Doc said, well, would it be knee-jerky to... That's kind of what you have to do a little bit, Doc. Here's my you do have to be a little bit knee-jerk. And you were knee-jerk with Shake Milton, so... yeah. But once you saw Burkan Korkmaz completely crap the bed, and here's where Doc Rivers was in a little bit of denial. So we will give Doc Rivers criticism. Burkan Korkmaz put up great numbers. You got 5 points on 30%. Please do not ever say to me, when I have access to the internet, please don't ever tell me that Burkan Korkmaz had a good playoff series. He did not. That's just not reality. The numbers don't bear it out. His play don't bear it out. You gave him over 30 minutes. You gave him more than enough rope to dry. I'm sorry, Doc. He did not have a good series. That's just the truth. I don't have a hate bone for the guy. I don't dislike the guy. He didn't play well. It is what it is. He is what he is. A bona fide scrub. But just like Doc. So I understand and I blame. The understand part is I thought just like he did. He said shooter or defender, and Matisse Thybulle will get to him. There are difficulties with Matisse Thybulle. Particularly Matisse Thybulle, Ben Simmons lineups are no different, literally, than Ben Simmons, Dwight Howard lineups. So when you criticize Dwight and Ben, that's valid, but Ben and Matisse together, defensively great, offensively horrid. Okay? And getting back to Furkan for a moment, I thought that if Furkan could be defensively below average, if he could just be Furkan Korkmaz defensively, and if he could be what we thought Furkan could ever be offensively, then the offense-defense offset is in your favor. But like I said, he gave you 5 points on 50% overall shooting, so Furkan Korkmaz was shit. He was shit on defense, which you expected, but he was also shit on offense. Meaning that Furkan Korkmaz did not bring much for the Sixers, a small forward. And we'll transition back into Matisse Thybulle. You couldn't really... Now, Matisse hit a couple of shots in the series with 17 minutes, 21 minutes, etc. And just like we did against Feet shots, who cares? This is about points. In a game 7 where you lost by 96 points, do we now understand that hitting 1 or 2 of Feet field goals don't mean shit? If you hit 2 of Feet field goals, you're better off being the 10th man. You're better off being a guy where we'll throw you in if something wacky happens. But you don't deserve many rotation minutes because your offense isn't that great. And Matisse theoretically has the defense that you definitely need. But Matisse, in my view, and especially because of the way he plays defense, and the reason why that foul cost you, and there was another foul on game 5 that also cost you, Matisse Thybulle still plays for the steal and the block more than he plays for his man. I would like to ask Matisse, when are you going to understand that contesting the shot means more important than the block and the steal? I don't care for the numbers as much. Obviously, the analytical people do. That's why they gave Rudy Gobert the defensive player of the year. I hope they finally understand that being there is better than the block. 9 times out of 10. Most centers can block it without the foul, but if you're a guard wing player, you shouldn't be judging perimeter defense on steals and blocks. Otherwise, you get Matisse Thybulle, boom and bust. And Matisse busted, per se, at inopportune moments defensively. And offensively, I never had Matisse Thybulle as a first round grade to begin with. And a large part of the reason is that his offensive game is ungradable. It is what it is. That is what it is. And I don't know if Matisse Thybulle could ever be anything more than a 10-15 minute per game guy at best. Or if you will want him on your roster at times at all. So I actually largely agree with Doc Rivers offensively. I don't know what you're going to do with Matisse. I don't think any roster can afford. We saw what the Bucks were doing with PJ Tucker. What a very narrow escape that was. Playing PJ Tucker 38, 39 minutes a night to barely give you maybe 5 points. You acquire that for a second round pick. You know? PJ Tucker's not a good basketball player. And these guys who can't contribute offensively getting minutes is offensive to offensive basketball. Just stop it. Literally stop it. The Bucks almost lost that series. Obviously, DiVincenzo goes down. And if DiVincenzo was healthy, you would not have seen nearly as much PJ Tucker. But the fact that you did, the Bucks kind of regret that. And especially now you're against the Atlanta Hawks. The Atlanta Hawks are just as dangerous as Brooklyn in terms of scoring. They don't have the level of player, but what the Hawks do have, they have a spread high pick and roll, Trae Young with the floater, as well as he might as well get all of the leverage that he can because it's going to be away next year from his... That's absurd. So he might as well get all the leverage out of that he can because that's not existing next year. But as long as that does exist, Trae Young is very difficult to guard, if not nearly impossible to guard. And you have Clint Capella rolling, you have John Collins rolling, you have shooters flanked out, it's a very dangerous offense. So I'm not sure if you can afford to play PJ Tucker 35 minutes and get 2 points on 1 of 6. I mean, with this season and in general, I've always felt 2 things. Spot shooters and defenders. See, I grew up watching the NBA. 10 years ago, these guys would have got minimum contracts. You would not have signed Davis Bertans to a 5-year, $80 million deal. You would not be talking about, Davis Bertans Courtmouth going to get paid. These guys used to have scraps. Ooh, are we going to massively pay Duncan Robinson? I dare front office to be that stupid. Yes, you have a larger cap, but please stop being stupid. Duncan Robinson is never going to live up to that contract. It was the same thing with Joe Harris, who's getting $16 million for the Nets. And now you have this penny pinch and you don't have a center, right? These guys should not be getting this money. They don't create up the dribble, they don't rebound, they don't dime, they shoot. It would be like paying a kicker defensive end money. Like, what are you doing? Like, it just doesn't make sense. Now, that's around the league on this whole thing. But you had Danny Green, you had Berkan Korkmaz, and you had Matisse Thybulle. He didn't have any small forwards. No matter what Doc Rivers chose a small forward, he was going to lose. Maybe Shake Milton at the 3, but Shake Milton, his defense was terrible. And I'm not sure I want to see Shake Milton low to the ground dribble ever again. The way Shake Milton dribbled the basketball, I don't think I ever want to see it. I would love to see Shake Milton out of Philadelphia. Unless he gets his 1-2 hop step jump shot back, and until he fixes the debacle that is his handling ability. Here's another area we could play Doc Rivers. Now we could talk about the Tyrese Maxey situation. From a very early moment, the Denver Nugget game and onward, you just saw something very, very special with Tyrese Maxey. As I looked at Tyrese Maxey's Kentucky tape, I was impressed, and I said I saw a lot of Gilbert Arenas in Tyrese Maxey. And he played up to that this rookie year. Gilbert Arenas, Mike Conley, all-stars. He had that base of a game to be an all-star guard in this league. For Tyrese Maxey to not have had main backup minutes throughout the duration of the regular season, that was a missed opportunity by Doc Rivers. Doc Rivers, up until his last, tried to ham-fish Shake Milton to be Lou Williams. Sorry, Doc, it didn't work. And after about a month and a half, 2 months, you should have recognized that it did not work. But you were so fixated on the combo guard. You needed the combo guard. And Tyrese sometimes just wasn't giving you, sometimes you're going to get Tyrese's offense, but you weren't going to get the playmaking in the secondary guard. I get that. I understand what Doc was thinking. It is not so much that he thought something that was illogical. It was very logical. But you ham-fisted it when by at that point you saw that Shake Milton was struggling at point guard. You even mentioned himself. You said that Shake Milton was struggling with the ball pressure. You saw this in real time, Doc. So why continue to put Shake Milton in that position? And even in that game too, right? All of Shake Milton's shots, guess where they came from? For example, the buzzer beater at the end of the third quarter. Tyrese Maxey gets the kick out to Shake Milton on the corner. Catch and shoot. So it would be apparent to me that Shake Milton, much like Steph Curry, that's the more accurate comparison. It seems like Shake Milton will be more effective off the ball. We can just think about catching and shooting. And you should tell Shake Milton, just like you tell Tobias, the less dribble the better. Because, oh my God, he sucks at dribbling the ball. So the less dribble the better for Shake Milton. And where you could blame Doc Rivers is backup point guard. Tyrese Maxey should have been there from the start. He won you game 6. You needed to give him that opportunity in game 7 in terms of shots too. Because when you did play him, Tyrese Maxey had the initiative of, oh, I gotta pass it to Tobias. Oh, I gotta pass it to Tobias. I gotta be the playmaker. And he showed playmaking, but when you... Here's the thing about a combo guard, which Tyrese Maxey is more of a combo guard than Shake Milton. Combo guards are extremely rare. And it makes them special because they can balance. You can get scoring and you can get playmaking. But if you're going to be, remember he's 20 years old, you're going to be in this 20-year-old combo guard's head and tell him, play make, play make, play make. He's going to lose what's natural to him. The combo guard's first instinct is to score, and we should not be discouraging that. You have to take bad shots, and it comes with the nature of the beast. Lou Williams, J.J. Barea. But for a Tyrese Maxey who could dribble drive and get to the tip of the defense, and is a pretty solid finisher, and I think as he gets stronger and he gets more training camps, I think you're going to see age 25 Tyrese Maxey is going to be a hell of a lot better than age 20 Tyrese Maxey. But I still feel like you did not get the mileage out of Tyrese because he was so focused on Shake Milton, and by the time Game 7 came, I'm not going to criticize the idea of beating Tobias Harris, but then at some point you tell Tyrese, hey kid, you want us to Game 6, go in and attack. I know that Atlanta is big and physical, I know there might be some misses, but think about it this way, Tobias Harris missed quite a few shots. And shout out to Tobias Harris, he said he's going to work hard, I don't doubt him, because again, you don't have a 6-year track record of doing nothing. Tobias Harris has been in the gym throughout his whole career to get to where he got. So I don't doubt that Toby is going to get in the gym. And we're going to go into the whole Ben Simmons segment because I have my ideas, including a recent idea that came to my mind. If you want more out of Tobias Harris, there's a radical suggestion I have in mind to fix that problem. But if Tobias was struggling, you tell Tyrese, hey kid, you can miss some shots too. Take the shots, you miss them, it happens. I just feel like you didn't get enough knowledge out of Tyrese Maxey. So, and this is probably approaching 40 minutes, but what would it be without a variety of discussion? But I'll give us a close. Ben and Dwight lineup shouldn't happen, but what were you going to do? You had Clint Capella, you had John Collins, you had these athletic bigs at the rim. And unfortunately, Ben Simmons sucks as a weak side defender. You know, you would ideally want this third guy to help off. Because if Joel Embiid is going to play a high pick and roll game, as we saw throughout the series, someone else needs to, the defensive term is dig in. Ben Simmons, 6'10", 225 would be the ideal perfect dig-in candidate, but that will require him to actually want to go in the post and actually be physical and dislodge either one of Collins or Capella. You weren't really getting that. So, and Tobias Harris wasn't really, Tobias tried a little bit, but weak side contained. It got better, but it wasn't really great weak side contained throughout the series. So because you didn't have real good weak side contained, going small ball, I feel like it would have exposed you to the pick and roll. And going small ball, I feel like in that Game 5, particularly, if you want me to criticize Doc, Maxey, Hill, Simmons, all three of them are on the lineup when you went up by 15. I felt like you had more ball movement. That was the other problem. I felt like Shake Milton wasn't getting you into your actions. Ben Simmons by himself obviously wasn't. I felt like what Tyrese Maxey did was he gave you a lot of energy, he gave you a lot of bounce. And when he playmakes naturally as opposed to just being told to force feed Tobias Harris, I just thought you were getting more from Tyrese Maxey playing 3 than you were getting from what you got. And that's the whole point with adjustments. That is about ability there. Okay. That's fair. But overall, for me, the roster is a big problem. The Sixer roster, Tyrese Maxey is the only live ball guard. He should be a starting guard next year. Your wingmen are trash. And, you know, to quote DJ Eastwood, Tobias Harris, large unknown. Are you always going to be 19, 20? Or can you bring yourself up to a 25? We saw a lot of potential from Tobias Harris in the playoffs against Washington for some points a game. Now, Washington played in an extremely small lineup. I feel like with Tobias, how can you finish over players your size? Or players who are 6'5", 6'6"? How can you score better against wings is something that you can experiment with in the lab. That's what I would like to see for Tobias. But generally speaking, even with Tobias, I cut Tobias a little bit of slack. we paid a certain guy a max salary and he gave you 6 points on 30% of the people line. When people are like, oh, you're blaming Ben too much. Guys, he had one of the worst offensive series of any player imaginable. He was such a liability that it ended up being, like DJ said, the YouTubers, DJ, RB got to it at that point. Me, Stephen A. Smith, obviously. So 85% of us said, you're not getting enough. You got 14 points on 10 shots in the regular season. They were like, what? And now you're going to 6 points on 33%. Now you're Ben Wallace on the people line? Are you kidding me? And this isn't the Ben video, so this will be short. I guess I'll preview toward the end. I saw this dude play LeBron at Philly for the third seed in the Eastern Conference 3 years ago. I saw him play LeBron literally a year and a half later as the Lakers came in, and that was the February last year where Ben just went off at the forward position. I saw Ben play at that level. And this is where I agree with Broach Talk. I saw Ben do it. So for us to sit here and seriously be like 14-6-6 or 6-8-9, for us to act like that's acceptable, that's selling Ben short, and Ben has been selling himself short. He could be better. And he needs to be better if he's going to stay in Philadelphia. Or he needs to be better to up what little trade value he has left. And this is 60 Universe. Sum it up this way. If you want to scroll to the very end, here's the sum up. Doc Rivers made some mistakes, but you have problems on your roster. And until those problems are fixed, you'll always lose in the first or second round. That's the truth. No matter even if Bill Jackson rose from the grave, the coach's roster. We have roster problems. Both of the coaching staff, now you have to look at the roster. And Daryl Morey promised us that he would do that. And I hope he does that credibly. If you're going to keep Ben, find some other way. I don't know what it is, but do something to change the fact that you have core creation. As long as Ben's in the 60 uniform, seemingly, is going to be below average. Find a way to get more ball creation, and I think you get a different result. 60 Universe, I nearly damn gave you a 40-minute video. I hope the topics and everything else kept it stable. But peace, guys, and thanks for bearing with my long-windedness.